Ladies and gentlemen, listen up, because what I'm about to tell you is something we all go through, something that hits deep. Have you ever felt like you were standing in a crowded room, but suddenly it's as if you become invisible? People who once called stop calling. People who once laughed with you now look the other way, and you're left wondering, what happened? What changed? Why do people start ignoring you? When people start ignoring you, it's easy to take it personally. It feels like rejection, like something is wrong with you. Your mind starts racing, replaying conversations, analyzing every word, every interaction. Did I say something wrong? Did I do something to offend them? Am I not good enough? But here's the truth. When someone suddenly stops acknowledging you, it has more to do with them than it does with you. People act based on their emotions, their insecurities, and their own inner battles. Sometimes when someone ignores you, it's not because you did something wrong, but because they are dealing with something they don't know how to express. Maybe they're going through personal struggles, and rather than opening up, they withdraw. Maybe they've outgrown the relationship, but don't have the courage to address it honestly. Or maybe they see something in you that reminds them of their own shortcomings. And instead of facing that, they create distance. Human beings are wired to protect their ego. If someone feels like they are falling behind in life while you're moving forward, their instinct might be to avoid you. They won't say it out loud, but deep down, your progress makes them uncomfortable. Your ambition reminds them of what they're not doing. Your discipline highlights their laziness. Your confidence makes them question their own self-worth. And instead of celebrating you, instead of supporting you, they pull away because it's easier than facing their own inadequacies. Sometimes people ignore you because they never really valued you in the first place. They were around when it was convenient for them, when they needed something from you, your energy, your kindness, your support. But the moment you stop serving their interests, they disappear. That's not a reflection of you. It's a reflection of their character. Genuine people don't just walk away when things change. Real relationships, whether friendships, family, or romantic, don't vanish when they're tested. If someone can ignore you without a second thought, that means their presence in your life was conditional. They were never truly invested in you as a person, only in what you provided for them. Then there are those who ignore you because they can't handle confrontation. Instead of communicating like mature adults, they choose silence. It's their way of avoiding uncomfortable conversations, their way of escaping accountability. Maybe they made a mistake and don't want to face it. Maybe they're feeling guilty about something and find it easier to avoid you than to own up to it. This kind of behavior isn't a sign that you're the problem. It's a sign that they lack emotional maturity. There are also people who ignore you as a form of control. They know that by suddenly withdrawing their attention, they create confusion and insecurity in you. They want you to chase them, to seek their approval, to question yourself. This is a power move, a manipulation tactic. They feed off the idea that their silence affects you. And the moment you start doubting yourself, they win. The best response to this? Walk away. Never give anyone the power to make you feel like you're not enough. The way people treat you is a reflection of who they are, not who you are. When someone ignores you, don't internalize it. Don't let it shake your confidence or make you feel like you're less than. Instead of wondering why they changed, ask yourself what their behavior reveals about them. Because at the end of the day, their actions speak volumes, not about your worth, but about their own. When you start growing, mentally, emotionally, financially, or spiritually, some people won't celebrate you. They won't cheer you on. They won't clap for you. And in some cases, they'll distance themselves. Not because you did anything wrong, not because you changed in a bad way, but because your growth makes them uncomfortable. People get used to the version of you that fits into their world. They like you when you're predictable, when you stay in the same patterns, when you don't challenge their way of thinking. The moment you break out of that mold, when you start dreaming bigger, setting higher standards, or refusing to settle, you disrupt their sense of familiarity, and that makes them uneasy. Some people are comfortable with mediocrity. They're okay with complaining, but never changing, with making excuses instead of taking action. So when they see you pushing past your limits, leveling up, and refusing to stay stuck, it forces them to look at their own lives. Your growth becomes a mirror, reflecting their stagnation, and instead of using it as motivation, they withdraw. You may notice that when you start talking about your ambition, certain people go silent. When you make sacrifices to improve yourself, they call you too serious or say you're acting different. That's because your progress makes them question themselves. They start to wonder, why am I not doing more? But instead of facing that reality, they choose the easier option, pulling away from you. Sometimes it's not just about jealousy, it's about fear. Your growth represents change, and change is scary. If you used to spend all your time partying, but now you're focused on building something meaningful, those who still live for the party might feel left behind. If you used to bond with people over negativity, but now you focus on positivity and self-improvement, they may feel like they've lost the connection. It's not that they hate you, it's that they don't know how to relate to this new version of you. Growth exposes true intentions. Some people only liked you when you were on their level. The moment you start climbing higher, they feel threatened. They might make passive-aggressive comments, downplay your achievements, or even start ignoring you completely, not because they truly dislike you, but because they don't want to admit that they're not willing to grow with you. Then there are those who fear that your growth will leave them behind. They see you evolving, becoming stronger, wiser, and more disciplined. And deep down, they worry that they won't be part of your journey anymore. Instead of stepping up and growing alongside you, they pull back. It's not always personal. It's their own insecurity convincing them that they can't keep up. You may also experience resistance from people closest to you, friends, family, even a significant other. Sometimes the people who should support you the most are the ones who struggle with your transformation. It's not always because they don't want you to succeed, but because they fear losing the dynamic they were comfortable with. They fear that your success might change your relationship with them. But here's the truth. Real relationships don't fade because of growth. Real friends, real partners, real supporters will adapt and grow with you. They won't see your progress as a threat. They'll see it as inspiration. Those who can't handle your evolution were never meant to be part of your future. Growth isn't about making others comfortable. It's about becoming who you were meant to be. And if that makes people uncomfortable, let it. Your journey isn't about them. It's about you. People come and go. That's just life. No matter how much history you share, no matter how strong the bond once was, not everyone is meant to stay in your life forever. Some people are only supposed to be in certain chapters of your story, not the whole book. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you'll find peace. It's natural to want to hold on to people. We get attached. We build connections, share memories, and expect that the people who matter to us will always be there. But the hard truth is that life doesn't work that way. People change, circumstances change, and sometimes the ones you thought would be there forever end up becoming strangers. This doesn't always mean something went wrong. It doesn't mean there was a big argument or a betrayal. Sometimes you simply outgrow each other. You evolve, your priorities shift, and suddenly the connection that once felt unbreakable starts to fade, and that's okay. Growth requires space. It requires new energy, new influences, and sometimes that means leaving behind relationships that no longer align with who you're becoming. Some people are only meant to teach you a lesson. Maybe they came into your life to show you something about yourself, to challenge you, to push you, to hurt you in a way that forced you to grow. Not everyone is meant to be permanent. Some people are just passing through, and their role in your life is complete. One of the hardest things to accept is that even people you love deeply, friends, family, even a significant other, might not be part of your journey forever. You may want them to stay, but if they are no longer adding to your growth, if the connection has turned into more of a burden than a blessing, then holding on is only hurting you. Letting go is not a sign of weakness. It doesn't mean you don't care. It means you respect the natural flow of life. When someone's presence starts to feel forced, when you find yourself questioning the relationship more than you're enjoying it, that's a sign. That's life telling you it's time to move on. Sometimes people walk away without warning. They stop calling, stop texting, stop showing up. And you're left wondering what happened, what you did wrong. But the truth is, their exit was not about you, it was about them. Some people don't know how to handle growth, so they disappear. Some people realize they can't be what you need, so they let go. And some people were only there for a season, and that season has simply ended. You don't lose real people. The ones who are truly meant to be in your life will stay no matter what. They will adjust to your growth, support your dreams, and stand by you through the highs and lows. And the ones who leave, they were never meant to go the distance with you. Holding on to the wrong people will only slow you down. If someone is meant to leave, let them. Trust that their absence is making space for something better. Trust that the right people will always find a way to stay. Life has a way of bringing the right people into your path at the right time. So instead of mourning who left, focus on who's still here, and more importantly, on who you're becoming. Rejection stings. It makes you question yourself, your worth, your abilities, whether it's being turned down for an opportunity, being ignored by people you cared about, or losing something you thought was meant for you. Rejection feels personal. It feels like a door being slammed in your face, like the world is telling you that you're not good enough. But what if I told you that rejection isn't the end of your story? What if I told you that rejection is just redirection? Every time you face rejection, it's life pushing you towards something better. You may not see it in the moment. You may feel like everything is falling apart, but later, sometimes weeks, months, or even years down the line, you'll look back and realize that what felt like a setback was actually a blessing in disguise. That relationship that ended, it made space for someone who truly values and understands you. That job you didn't get, it pushed you to develop skills that led you to something even greater. That friend who walked away, it freed you from a connection that was holding you back. Rejection is often protection. There are opportunities, relationships, and situations that may seem perfect on the surface, but deep down, they aren't meant for you. You might be so focused on what you want that you don't see the dangers, the hidden struggles, the ways it could have actually hurt you. And that's why rejection happens. It's life removing what isn't right for you, even when you don't understand it yet. Think about the times in your life when you wanted something so badly, but it didn't work out. Maybe you were devastated in that moment. Maybe you thought you'd never recover, but what happened later? You grew. You found something better. You became stronger. That's the power of rejection. It forces you to evolve, to push forward, to find another way. The greatest success stories are built on rejection. The people who achieve the most in life are not the ones who never fail, but the ones who refuse to let failure define them. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. Oprah was told she wasn't fit for television. J.K. Rowling was rejected by multiple publishers before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon. Imagine if they had let rejection stop them. Imagine if they had taken it as a sign that they weren't good enough. But they didn't. They understood that rejection was just redirection. It's easy to let rejection make you bitter, to let it make you feel like you're not worthy. But the truth is, rejection isn't about worth, it's about alignment. It's about making sure you end up where you truly belong. Sometimes what you want and what you need are two very different things. Life sees the bigger picture, even when you don't. So when you get rejected, don't dwell on it. Don't beg for what's already walked away. Don't waste time trying to force something that isn't meant for you. Instead, ask yourself, what is this pushing me toward? Because rejection isn't a dead end, it's a detour. And if you trust the process, if you keep moving forward, you'll realize that what's ahead is far greater than what you thought you lost. Loneliness is a test. It's one of the hardest seasons in life, but it's also one of the most powerful. When you find yourself alone, when the calls stop coming, when the invitations disappear, when the people you once counted on are no longer around, you have two choices. You can let loneliness break you, or you can let it build you. Most people fear being alone because they associate it with weakness. They think that if they're not surrounded by people, something must be wrong. But the truth is, some of the strongest individuals in history were shaped by solitude. Great leaders, innovators, and visionaries all had moments where they walked alone, because in those moments of isolation, they found clarity, they found purpose, they discovered who they truly were. Loneliness strips away the noise. When you're constantly surrounded by people, it's easy to be distracted. It's easy to lose yourself in opinions, expectations, and the need for validation. But when you're alone, you're forced to sit with your thoughts, to confront your fears, to ask yourself the hard questions. Who am I? What do I want? What am I capable of? Some people avoid loneliness by jumping from relationship to relationship, from one social group to another, just to avoid being alone with themselves. But if you never learn to be comfortable with solitude, you'll always depend on others for your sense of worth. And the moment they leave, you'll feel lost again. That's why loneliness isn't a punishment, it's an opportunity to grow, to heal, to build yourself up so that when the right people come along, you're not depending on them to complete you. Pain has a way of isolating you. When you go through struggles, when you fail, when you lose someone, when life knocks you down, people disappear. Some because they don't know how to handle your pain, some because they were only there for the good times, and some because your growth intimidates them. And in that solitude, it's easy to feel abandoned. But understand this, loneliness isn't meant to weaken you, it's meant to strengthen you. Every strong person you admire has faced seasons of loneliness. They didn't become great because they always had a support system. They became great because they learned to rely on themselves. They used solitude to sharpen their mind, to develop resilience, to build the kind of self-belief that doesn't depend on anyone else. Loneliness forces you to become your own source of motivation. It teaches you to push forward even when no one is clapping for you. It teaches you to trust your vision even when no one else sees it. Because the reality is, before the world believes in you, you have to believe in yourself. And that belief is built in the moments when no one is watching. Some of your greatest breakthroughs will happen in your loneliest moments. The ideas that change your life, the strength that carries you through, the self-awareness that helps you make better choices, all of it comes when you embrace solitude instead of running from it. So if you find yourself alone, don't see it as a curse, see it as a season of preparation, a time to build, to learn, to evolve. Because when the storm passes, when the right people enter your life, when success finally comes knocking, you'll be ready. Not because someone saved you, but because you saved yourself. When people want to leave your life, let them. Don't chase, don't beg, don't waste your energy trying to convince someone to stay who has already decided to walk away. Because the truth is, the right people, the ones who truly care, who truly value you, will never need to be chased. It's human nature to hold on. When someone starts pulling away, we feel this desperate urge to pull them back. We try to remind them of the good times. We try to prove our worth. We ask ourselves what we did wrong. But here's what you need to understand. If someone wants to leave, their mind is already made up, and no amount of effort on your part is going to change that. People show you how they feel through their actions. If someone is ignoring you, if they've stopped making an effort, if their energy has shifted, if they wanted to be in your life, they would be. Chasing people never ends well. Even if you convince them to stay, their heart isn't really in it. You'll find yourself constantly trying to prove your worth, constantly trying to keep them interested, constantly feeling like you have to fight for their attention. And that's not love, that's not friendship, that's emotional exhaustion. Letting people go doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you don't value them. It simply means you respect yourself enough not to beg for someone's presence. It means you understand your worth. Because the moment you stop chasing, the moment you step back and focus on yourself, something shifts. You realize that the people who left did you a favor. They made room for those who truly belong. The ones who walk away were never meant to go the distance with you. Their part in your story is over, and that's okay. Some people are temporary. Some people come into your life to teach you a lesson, to help you grow, to show you what you don't want in your future, and when their purpose is served, they leave. That's not a loss, that's life. When you stop chasing, you start attracting. You start drawing in people who see your value without you having to prove it. You create space for relationships that are mutual, for people who choose you willingly, not out of obligation. And that's what you deserve. So, if someone is drifting away, let them. Wish them well, but don't hold on. Your energy is too valuable to waste on people who don't see it. Focus on yourself, on your goals, on your growth. The right people, the ones who are meant for you, will stay. And when they do, you won't have to chase. You'll just know silence can be painful. When people stop calling, stop checking in, stop acknowledging your presence, it can feel like the world has forgotten you. You start questioning yourself, wondering if you're not important enough, not good enough, not worthy enough. But here's what you need to understand. Silence is not rejection. Silence is an opportunity. An opportunity to refocus, to reset, and to use that quiet space to fuel your purpose. Most people fear silence because they associate it with loneliness. They think that if they're not constantly surrounded by people, constantly validated, constantly in motion, then something must be wrong. But the truth is, silence is where real growth happens. It's in the quiet moments that you find clarity. It's in the stillness that you hear your true voice. When the noise fades, the distractions, the unnecessary relationships, the opinions of people who never really mattered, you finally have the space to focus on what truly does. You stop living for external approval and start living for yourself. You stop trying to fit into spaces that were never meant for you and start creating your own path. Think about some of the greatest minds in history. They didn't build their legacy surrounded by constant noise. They built it in solitude. They built it in the hours when no one was watching, no one was clapping, no one was checking in. The silence forced them to dig deep, to trust their vision, to develop the kind of self-discipline that doesn't rely on outside validation. When people ignore you, when life quiets down, when you find yourself alone with nothing but your thoughts, don't waste that moment feeling sorry for yourself. Use it. Let the silence sharpen you. Let it make you hungrier, more determined, more focused. If they're not calling, good. Now you have fewer distractions. If they're not supporting you, good. Now you can learn to stand on your own. The people who go the furthest in life are the ones who learn how to operate in silence. They don't need applause to keep going. They don't need validation to believe in themselves. They put their head down and do the work, trusting that one day the results will speak for them. If you're in a season where the world feels quiet, where the people you thought would be there aren't, don't let it break you. Let it build you. Use this time to perfect your craft, to work on yourself, to push towards your goals without distraction. Because when you come back, when you step out of that silence, the world won't be able to ignore you anymore. The silence is a gift. Use it. Fuel your purpose, and when the time is right, make so much noise with your success that they have no choice but to listen. Your value is not up for debate. It's not something that shifts based on who acknowledges you, who supports you, or who decides to walk away. Too many people tie their worth to external validation, to likes, to attention, to whether or not people include them. But the truth is, your value is something you carry within you, and no one has the power to take that away. When people ignore you, when they stop calling, when they act like you don't exist, it's easy to feel like you're not enough. You start asking yourself, what did I do wrong? Why am I not important to them? But that's the wrong question. The real question is, why am I giving someone else the power to define my worth? Your value does not decrease just because someone fails to see it. If a diamond is buried underground, does it lose its value? No, it remains just as rare, just as precious, just as valuable, whether someone recognizes it or not. And you are the same way. Just because someone chooses to ignore you, just because they don't appreciate you, doesn't mean you're not worthy. It just means they're not the right person to recognize your greatness. Some people will overlook you because they're not meant to be part of your journey. Some will take you for granted because they assume you'll always be there. Some will try to downplay your worth because your presence makes them feel small. None of that has anything to do with you. That's their limitation, not yours. Too often, people spend their lives seeking approval. They mold themselves to fit into spaces that don't appreciate them. They chase after love, friendships, and opportunities that don't align with their true worth, and in the process, they lose themselves. But the moment you stop looking for validation, the moment you stand firm in who you are without needing permission, everything changes. The people who truly see you, who truly value you, will never need convincing. They will recognize your worth without you having to prove it. And the ones who don't, let them go. Let them overlook you. Let them think whatever they want. Because at the end of the day, your life is not about their opinion. It's about how you see yourself. You were not put here to shrink for anyone. You are not meant to be quiet just so someone else can feel comfortable. You are not created to be ignored. You are here to make an impact, to grow, to shine. And whether people acknowledge it or not, your value remains unchanged. So stop seeking validation from those who can't even see their own worth. Stop questioning yourself because someone failed to appreciate you. Instead, stand tall, walk with confidence, and remind yourself every single day, I am enough, I am valuable, and no one can take that away from me. So, if you're feeling ignored, overlooked, left out, remember this. It's happening for a reason. People who truly care for you, who respect you, who align with your future, they will never disappear when you grow. And the ones who do, they were never meant to stay. Keep moving, keep rising, keep becoming the person you were born to be. And when you finally reach the top, when you look around and see a new circle of people, ones who support you, uplift you, and push you to be better, you'll realize that being ignored wasn't a curse. It was the greatest blessing of your life. Now go, chase your destiny, and never ever let the silence of others stop you from making noise in this world.